What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Sarah 71 here, bringing another video. So I'm bringing a video on Kamen Rider Build episode 7. This episode is called The Demonic Scientist. It's a really good episode. It introduces a new best match, reveals a character, also gives us more detail on the scientist Katsuragi. Now, the thing is that this episode is really good. It starts off with Sento trying to find out more information about Katsuragi, and Ryoga keeps on questioning him about whether or not he killed, whether or not Sento may have killed Katsuragi, since he showed up an hour earlier than Ryoga did to the place where Katsuragi was found dead, and so he thinks that maybe he killed him. Sawa questions that as well, but he also mentions the fact that he can't remember, and also, for all he knows, it could have happened even before Sento went there. So there's nothing saying that for a fact that Sento might have done it. He might have gone in there for all we know and seen him dead and ran away. So that's another potential thought. So then what ends up happening is that following this, a new bottle is made. This bottle is the Panda bottle, which is made from the Press Smash essence, and then from there we end up seeing Mizora show up, who she's annoyed because the two of them, Ryoga and Sento, are fighting, and then eventually we end up seeing Sento go to the Totoro Institute, speak to Gentaku like he typically does, to try to find out this time more information about Katsuragi. And so what he finds out is that Katsuragi was fired at one point because of the fact that he had done human experimentation. He tried to really focus on making that a focus for the Institute. But the thing is that the Institute didn't want to experiment on people to turn them into monsters and anything, and he decided to do it on his own time secretly, but at one point he was caught, and because of what he had been doing, he was fired from his job, and that led to him being out of the Institute. So then following this, we end up seeing Sento doing some more work elsewhere, where these two other guys show up asking what he's doing, and he's looking at Katsuragi's information, and he notices how every single day up till the day that Katsuragi was about to do the human experimentation, that Katsuragi was writing down information in his data. And the thing is that during that day, he stopped. He tried to not mention anything about the human experimentation, giving no clues as to his connection or his thoughts about it. So there's no proof unless you know it. So the thing is that he ends up noting one section of text which is a random jumbled up mess of words, and he thinks that it actually might mean that it's an anagram that actually turns out to be another phrase entirely different. And when he does change the order of the words up, it turns out to say something about like his mother or something like that. So then Sento thinks that maybe he has to go to his mother, which he ends up finding out that Sento's mother ended up moving from Totoro to Hakuto, which is the one part of the country that they haven't visited yet in the show. And so the thing is that he ends up trying to ask around if any of them have money. Like, Ryoga doesn't have money, Suichi doesn't have much money, Sawa isn't doing very well. The only one that actually is able to help them is Mizora, Mizora ends up using her internet idol self to get money for Sento and also Ryoga so that they can get across. And the thing is that they're not just going to go across like a plane or anything like that. No, they're actually going to use a special road called the Sky Road, which is something that was caused due to the fact that when the Sky Wall was made, there were cracks in the wall that allow people to sneak through, and you have to pay off a broker to get through the wall. So you can walk right across, but you have to deal with paying the cost just to get across. So it's basically like, think of it almost as crossing the border. That's basically what it is in a way. Only it's a very special border, and it's one that costs a lot of money just to get across because of the fact that it's secret and it's underground in a way. So then we end up seeing Gentaku, and Gentaku is actually in the FOST experimentation area, and he ends up coming there to speak with Bloodstark, and he ends up asking, "Oh, you have news for me, don't you?" And Bloodstark mentions how, yes, apparently, Build is going to Hakuto, and so then he's like, "This will ruin everything that you've worked on. What are you going to do about it? After all, you plan to use the Kamen Rider as a military weapon." So then he says, Build must not go across the board, must not go to Hakuto. So then he ends up saying, "You have to come with that Bloodstark has to go with him to stop, Build from going across." And Bloodstark is against it at first, and Gintaku is annoyed at Bloodstark for not agreeing to help out. So then we end up seeing that Gintaku uses a bottle that he has, twists the cap, and then puts it in the into one of the guns, into like the devil gun or whatever, and it allows him to transform. When he transforms, it says like mist match. Actually, it says bat mist match fire, and then he becomes Night Rogue. Yes, Gentaku and Night Rogue are one and the same person. That was something that I've been expecting for quite a few weeks, and it's good to finally have that official confirmation. I'm sure that the opening will, if it not next week, very shortly be updated to feature something about that. So when you see the opening, it will have that shown where you have that clear indication that they are one and the same person. So Night Rogue and Bloodstark fight, and then eventually we end up seeing that Sento and Ryoga are going to go to the border or whatever. They end up paying off the broker, and for some reason Ryoga is dressed as a clown. Not very clear at first as to why, but you'll find out later. So anyway, what ends up happening is that they pay off the broker, they get near the border, and then suddenly Night Rogue shows up with the Guardians as well as Bloodstark. Night Rogue ends up asking, "I know that Build, you're there, and if you want these people to, some people that actually come by that are trying to escape Hakuto, are going to be attacked if Build does not come out and fight and not choose to go to Hakuto." So Sento then transforms into Build in his standard form, fights Night Rogue a bunch, but eventually manages to get across the borderway and make it to where he needs to get to, which is Katsuragi's mother's place. When he's there, Sento ends up meeting with her, and also there's these kids that are being taught something by the mother, who's actually a teacher. And the thing is that the area is apparently very poor, very, very much so in a famine state, because of the fact that due to the way that the world is working now, the crops that they used to be able to make are not something they can do anymore, and so they're not very wealthy at all, and so that leads to them having to be taught by just random people rather than having real money to learn from someone who has a lot of education or whatever. And the thing is that when the kids go over to Ryoga, they end up taking off his clown nose, and for some reason, Katsuragi's mom realizes that it's Ryoga Banjo, and it could just be because of the fact that he's known in the news. It might not have anything to do with anything other than that. So anyway, she tells them to go away, and then at one point they end up going towards like some bridge area, talking to the kids, and one of the kids mentions how he wants to grow up and teach kids in his area for free and help them learn things. And Ryoga and both Ryoga and Sento really love that. But eventually, at one point, what happens is we end up seeing Katsuragi's mother show up as well, and she ends up saying, "Go on, boys, you should go leave," or whatever. And then following this, we end up seeing Bloodstark appear. Bloodstark ends up using his Transstream gun, which is like the front part of the gun, to actually turn that one boy who wanted to become a teacher into a Smash Monster. And this required none of the typical experimentation with the chambers or anything like that. All it required was him turning the gas chamber on the gun and releasing the gas on the kid and making him into a Smash Monster. Following this, what ends up happening is that the monster ends up fighting alongside him, and then Sento ends up transforming into Nin Comics, or Nin Comics form, which he ends up using that mode. He ends up doing the decoy, the fire skill, and also duplication, I believe, to deal with him. And then eventually, following all that, what ends up happening is that Sento ends up getting him weakened to the point that Ryoga is able to use one of the bottles to extract the essence from the kid and gain access to it. And then following this, what ends up happening is, he's not able to gain access to it, but what he ends up doing is he ends up giving it to the little cross dragon or whatever that helped in the last episode, and the dragon ends up being powered up and starts shooting attacks at Bloodstark, and Bloodstark tries to knock him away. And the thing is, in the meantime, we end up seeing that Sento transforms into Panda Gatling, which is the combination of Panda and the Gatling bottle, to fight him. And then eventually, at one point, while the dragon's distracting Bloodstark, Ryoga manages to sneak over and take from Bloodstark's gun the rocket bottle, which he throws right over to Sento, and then Sento ends up replacing the Gatling bottle with the rocket bottle to allow him to form the Panda Rocket mode, which is another best match, which is great to finally see that mode in the show. So he ends up using that and fights Bloodstark with that best match, and eventually they fight their battle. And at one point, Bloodstark says his last words, which is the fact that he gives them more information about Katsuragi regarding the fact that Katsuragi actually founded Faust, and he also created the Smash Monsters. And then he leaves them with that, and then we're left wondering what this really means, that Katsuragi made the Faust Institute, meaning that, it's pretty much assumed that the same people that he led all the Faust people. And also he turned them in. He also created the Smash Monsters in the first place. So that's important. Now in the preview, it also shows off that we're gonna learn more about Katsuragi, I'm sure. Also, we're gonna see another combination, which is gonna be, I believe, probably another best match. I'm not sure if it is definitively a best match, but it's gonna be another form at least for build, and that will be Fire Hedgehog, which will be cool to see that as well. And that's about it. I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on this episode. I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot of expansion. As far as my thoughts on who Bloodstark might be, maybe he is Katsuragi. Even though Katsuragi's dead, maybe he managed to separate himself from his Smash form, and maybe his mind was transferred over to a human body or something like that, and his regular form died. I don't really know anything for a fact, but what I'm thinking is that possibly Bloodstark isn't human. Again, that's the thing that I've been thinking for a little while now, because he only has a voice actor, and as opposed to what do you call it, Night Rogue, who he didn't have a voice actor. He just didn't have, like, there was no, it wasn't said at all who he was played by, so no one knew who his voice was. All it was that they took Gintaku's voice and adjusted the sound on it so that it sounded way deeper and it didn't come across as obvious that it was Gintaku. That's why they did that. So now his voice will be more along the lines of what we've been hearing from Gintaku, only maybe slightly adjusted. Eventually, obviously, it will cease to be adjusted and it will be obvious. And eventually also that Gintaku and Sento won't be so willing to work together and will actually probably be against each other. But as of now, they don't, like, you know, Sento doesn't know that Gintaku is who he is, but Gintaku knows who Sento is. Well, Gintaku knows who Build is. I guess that probably he doesn't know that he's also Sento. I don't think. Maybe actually no, he does. I would think. But anyway, you know, it's a little different. So love to know your guys' opinions. Did you guys enjoy this episode? Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell you your guys' thoughts are of this episode in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samus 71, and goodbye, guys.